Resume. Yeah. So Jainism also talks about 9 truths. Now, what are these 9 truths? 9 truths are nothing but these are things that are there in our life. We are surrounded by these things in our life. So every person should be aware of these 9 truths which affect him. The 9 truths affect who we are, what happens to us. It affects us. So we all should be aware of these things. So what are the 9 things? They are first, Jiva. Jiva means all living beings, all living things in and around us, they affect us. Ajiva. All non-living things that we use, they also influence our life. Punya. What is punya? The result of good deeds. When we do good deeds, we get something good in return. That is called punya. Pap. What is pap? It's the result of bad deeds. If we do bad deeds, then we accumulate sins. Okay. Ashrav. Ashrav are good deeds. So when we do ashrav, then we get punya. When we do ashrav, then the result is punya. Sanvar. Sanvar means hindrances in the way of karma. That means is the result of bad action. These are bad actions. Sanvar is bad actions which become sorry,
No,
I
no, we
was
can't hear.
myself on mute and I was not able to hear anybody. Can you hear me now? I'm
Yes,
asking
ma'am.
whether you guys were able to see the PPT when I shared. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Let us go back to the lesson. Okay, so 1 minute. So after the 5 vows of Jainism, we were looking at the 9 truths. So Jiva, living things; Ajiva, non-living things; Punya, result of good deeds; Papa, result of bad deeds or sins; Ashrav are good deeds and Sanvar are bad deeds. So Sanvar are actually hindrances in the way of karma. Why do we have hindrances in our life? It is because of some bad deeds that we have done. Bandha. Bandha is bondage. Whatever is there in our life, we have developed attachment towards it. Sometimes we cannot live with those things. So those are all our bondages. Then Nirzara. What is Nirzara? Nirzara is destruction of karmas. That means how to destroy all these karmas. We have to destroy the karmas. Only then we will get moksha or salvation. In order to get moksha, we have to know we should first be aware of the 9 truths in our life. If we are aware of the 9 truths, then we have to follow certain things in our life in order to attain moksha. So Mahavira said the 9 truths of life are Jiva, Ajiva, Punya, Papa, Ashraf, Sanvar, Bandha, Nirzara, and Moksha. Clear? Can you see this line below? Aryaman, read it.
Jalebi and Pani Puri are symbols of Bandha, not Moksha.
So that is your, that's the sentence to remember the 9 truths, acronym. Okay. So that
Yes.
will help you to remember the 9 truths. J stands for Jiva. Jalebi J. A stands for Ajiva. So Jiva, Ajiva Pa is Papa. Pu is Punya. Pa, Pu, whichever is bolded, that will help you to remember. So Jiva, Ajiva, Papa, Punya, Ashraf, Sanvar, Bandha, Bandha is Bandha only, Nirzara and Moksha. Okay. So the meaning of this sentence is also very powerful sentence this is. At the same time, it's a very funny sentence which you will not forget. So this sentence says Jalebi and Pani Puri are symbols of Bandha and not Moksha. What does this mean? This means that we love Jalebi, we love Pani Puri. So we cannot live without all these things. It is very difficult to give up this. So we get attached to this. So these are symbols of Bandha. Bandha means bondages. So Jalebi and Pani Puri are symbols of Bandha and not Moksha. One who has renounced, that is a monk, okay, a monk, Jain monk who has renounced everything, he doesn't care for Jalebi and Pani Puri. So I hope you all will remember this sentence. And if you remember this sentence, you will be able to write all the 9 truths. In my previous batches, I have also taught them this sentence and then I've told them to remember. In the exam, when I asked them, please write any of the 9, any 4 truths. From the 9 truths, write any 4 truths of Jainism. They will write all the 9 in the answer because they know. They have learnt it so well because of this sentence that I asked 4, they will give me 9. So I hope it is good for you also. Okay, now let's go to the next. Doctrines of Jainism. Now we saw the vows which the monks have to follow, the truths of Jainism, which all have to be aware. Every person has to be aware of the truths of life. Once you know that in life these things are there, there is papa, there is punya, there is bondage, there is sadness, there is, your good actions, bad actions, living things, non-living things. All these things are affecting us. Then how do we attain moksha? What do we do to get moksha? This is the next question. So Mahavira said, you can get moksha if you follow the 3 Ratnas. 3 Ratnas are 3 jewels. He said, follow 3 Ratnas and you will get moksha. What are the 3 Ratnas? Right knowledge, right faith, right conduct. KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken. Okay. KFC. Okay. So right knowledge, remember KFC, you can remember this. Okay. Right knowledge, right faith, right conduct. That means if we have right knowledge about the truths of life, and if we have good faith, if we have faith in the 3 Ratnas, then our conduct will change. We will also start following the 3 Ratnas, and if we do good deeds, naturally we will attain moksha. Okay. So the way to attain moksha is 3 Ratnas. Then the Jains also believed in karma. What does karma say? Karma says that good deeds alone can liberate a man from the cycle of birth and death. See, if it says that every man has to face the consequences of his action, that is karma. Good deeds if we do, good things happen to us. Bad deeds if we do, immediately we may not see the consequences of our bad actions, but it will happen. Definitely it will happen later in life. It will happen at a time when you do not expect it at all. That is the way karma gets back at us. Karma will strike when we are very, very happy. That's when it will strike and make us unhappy. Okay. So that is why we should be always mindful of what we are doing. Okay. So karma says that all our actions will decide what kind of birth we will get in our next birth. So because Jainism and Buddhism, both of them are from Hinduism, born from Hinduism, they believe in karma and rebirth and all. They also believe in this philosophy. So they believe that there is another birth. So in this birth, if you're doing wrong things, in your next birth, your life will be decided on what you have done in the previous birth. And if you want to quickly get liberated from this entire cycle of being born again and again, again and again, then definitely you have to follow the Triratnas. Okay, and start giving up everything. Start slowly renouncing everything. Start leaving attachments, and that's how slowly you can proceed on the path to moksha. Okay, so equality. What does it believe? Now, these are some of the things that were different from Hinduism. What is the equality? It says that every living being is equal and it deserves respect, and we have to be compassionate. All living things, whether it's a tiny insect to a highest form, every living thing has to be shown respect and compassion. So it believed in that's why it rejected the caste system. When everybody is equal, including insects, so where is the question of caste system? So no caste, everybody is same. Eternal soul. It also believed that the soul doesn't get destroyed. It believed that there is something called a soul which can keep on taking birth again and again on this, in this earth. Okay, so soul is immortal. It doesn't get destroyed. What gets destroyed is only the body, which is like a house for the soul. Okay, soul is the energy which is inside the body. The body is the house. The house may get destroyed, but the energy doesn't get destroyed. That energy, or the Atma or the soul, whatever we call it, whatever names we call it, that will find another body and will be born again on this earth once its time is over. So that is why even Krishna said in Mahabharata, in Gita, when he was doing Gita Upadesh for Arjuna, when Arjuna did not want to fight his his uncles and his cousins and his gurus and all who were in the Kaurava army, he told him this only. What did Krishna say? Krishna said, why do you think that you are going to kill them? They will never die, because the body is not what they are. What your guru is, that guru is the soul. The soul will never die. Even if you kill the body, the soul will remain. You cannot kill the soul. Their souls will always be there. So don't think that you are killing anybody or you're doing. You have to do your dharma, and maybe you have to destroy the body in which the soul is there. You have to do that to protect dharma. But they will not die. So rest assured that you cannot kill anybody. That is what Krishna told Arjuna. And that is how he made him realize. So the same philosophy here, Jainism also, they believed in the immortality of the soul or the Atma. Salvation. They also felt that ultimately a human being can be at peace only when he stops getting birth again and again, and he gets freed from the cycle of birth and rebirth. And belief in penance. Now, Jainism, this is a very, what do you say, striking quality, or what do you say, unique feature. Unique feature of Jainism is their belief in penance. Penance means generally denying their body of comforts. So extreme penance. Now, Jainism believes in extreme penance. So they deny their body of food and water very frequently. When Jains feel that they have committed a sin. Now, let's say there is a Jain who is a very orthodox Jain. Orthodox means those people who are very firm and strong believers of their religion. They are called orthodox believers. Now, suppose a Jain person is there and he was walking on the road. Accidentally, he stepped on an ant and the ant died. Now the Jain will feel that he has committed murder. The Jain will feel that he has done a very big mistake by killing a living thing. Because in Jainism, you have to respect every living being, including an insect. So they are very non-violent people. So he feels that he has committed violence. So what he does, he will voluntarily go on a fast. What he will do, he wants to do penance for the sin that he has committed. He feels that he has committed a sin and he has to wash the sin. To wash the sin, nobody tells him. Voluntarily, he says, for 1 week I will fast and I will not eat food, or for 1 week I will eat only once in a day. So that way they impose fasting on themselves. So this penance is a very inherent feature of Jainism. So they had this strong faith in penance, and for them, to die of starvation was a virtue. That means it is like going to heaven. Those who voluntarily starve themselves till they die, they were considered as great people who had to be revered and who had to be celebrated. In a way, it is right, because children, do you think we can live without eating food? One day also, whole day, can you stay without eating food and drinking water? Can we do it? We can't. It's very, very difficult. One day, one full day also, if I say no food, no water, all full time will be feeling hungry and thirsty only. Okay, it is very difficult to give up voluntarily that I will not eat, I will not drink water. See, out of sheer helplessness, there are people on the streets who are not having food and water, maybe 2 days, 3 days, they don't get food. But such people, it is sheer helplessness. They're not getting food, or they're very poor, some unfortunate incident, something like that. Or a person is stuck in some desert and he doesn't get food for 2 days, 3 days, let's say, then it's an unfortunate thing. He will not die in the 2 or 3 days, but he's not getting food. Now what can he do? It's imposed on him. It's a circumstance. But what about a normal person who is staying in a city? Normally he is having access to food, water, but voluntarily he doesn't have food, and that's actually a very difficult task, and not everybody can do it. Hardly anybody. One in a, in many thousands or lakhs of people will find the courage in them to do that. Okay, so for them, if somebody wants to die by starving themselves, it was considered a virtue. And this dying of starvation is called Santara or Salekhna. It is called Santara or Salekhna. Usually, this Santara or Salekhna is prescribed for old people. It is not for young people. The religion says those who are very old, who have lived a full life, that means they have become grandparents, now they are very old. Let's say somebody who is 70 plus, above 70 years of age. Now that person doesn't have anything else to do in life, in the sense that he has completed his responsibilities, he has enjoyed life, his children are grown up, his children have children who are grown up. At 70 years of age, you can expect that your grandchildren also will be grown up. Okay, so if at that stage of life nothing much is left for us to achieve in this life or to do something, so at such stage, instead of dying due to disease, what the religion said was, don't die of disease. Instead of waiting for disease to come and then you suffering the disease and dying, instead of that, what you do is go on voluntary fasting. So voluntarily you starve yourself till you die. Till you die, you don't eat anything. So this was basically for very old people, those who had finished everything. But unfortunately, there are some orthodox Jains who at any age they will do. They are so attached to their religion that they do defy all logic. This is what happened with a girl. A girl, this was you can Google this and see. A girl called Aradhana. She was only 13 years old, grade 8 student she was, and she was in Hyderabad. She lived in Hyderabad. In 2016, she went on a 68-day fast and she died 2 days after she ended the fast. She took a vow. Nobody forced her, not her parents, not her family, nobody. She belongs to a very rich family. She belongs to a jeweler's family in Hyderabad. But she herself decided that she is going to go on a 68-day fast. Before going on the 68-day fast, some 6 months or 1 year ago, she had gone on a 41-day fast. She went on a 41-day fast and nothing happened to her. She was alive after 41 days. And this 41 days, she did not drink water also. That means no water, no food. That's how she stayed for 41 days. And then she ended the fast. And later on, she said that she wants to fast for 68 days and her family did not protest. The only thing her family did was they did not stop her from doing it because they felt that it's a religious thing. She is doing it. We should not come in the way of religion. She feels that it is her faith. So we should not stop her faith. We should allow people to follow their faith. So the parents did not stop her. They just said, okay, do it. So she did the 68 days fast and so every day hundreds and hundreds of people used to come and visit her because she became like a Swami and Sadhu. People were so amazed by her feat that they used to come to take her blessings. She almost became like a goddess. People used to come in hordes to visit her, see her, take her blessings. They used to touch her feet. They used to take photos with her and all that because it's so difficult. After doing that, end of 68 day, there was a big procession where she went around in the procession in a chariot and all for completing 68 days fast and all. There was a big celebration that she completed 68 days fast. After that, 2 days after that, poor thing, she got admitted in the hospital and she died because of cardiac failure. Naturally, all this fasting has weakened her body and she had a heart attack after 2 days and she died. So it's very unfortunate. Actually, this is not very correct because she's too young to decide what is good and what is bad for her. She's too small. If she was an adult and if she would have done this, fine. She knows the repercussions or the consequences of her actions, we can say. This she did. But whatever it is, even it's not easy. A 13-year-old girl doing 68 days fast is just not, it's unthinkable. I myself can't stay without eating for a single day. So imagine a child of 13. So if she has done, there is maybe she had some divine powers, maybe she had some kind of thing within her which made her do it. So that is Santhara. So Santhara or Salekhana is to die in starvation. Now, Jainism, it then spread. It spread after Mahavira's time. He lived for 72 years and then he attained moksha. That means he died after that. After he died, then all his followers, they went on spreading. But Jainism did not spread up beyond India because only few political leaders, that is few kings, supported Jainism. Plus, the fact was there was too much of penance. There was too much of emphasis on fasting in Jainism, which a common man found it very difficult. For everything fasting. So they have this month. They have a holy month called Paryushan. In that Paryushan, for about 40 days they fast. All of them fast. That means only once in a day they will eat. So that Paryushan month is there. So all this fasting was now becoming difficult for common people to follow. So that is why slowly Jainism was losing its this thing. People were moving away from Jainism and they were actually getting gravitated towards Buddhism. Buddhism was a much more softer religion. It was not so harsh, not so hard on people like Jainism. Now coming to Jainism, there are two sects. Sects means there are two parts, okay, of the groups. There are two groups in Jainism. Now these in 3rd century BC, that means the Jainism was started in 6th century BC and nearly after 200 years. After 200 years, it got split into two groups. And these two groups are called Digambars and Shvetambars. Now Digambars were led by Bhadravahu and Shvetambars were led by Stulabhadra. So there was a Jain council. Council means a gathering of all Jains. Actually, Jainism was more prevalent in Bihar and in Uttar Pradesh. In these areas only Jainism was there, Orissa and all that. It so happened that there was a famine in Bihar. Because of famine, lots of people were dying. So Bhadrabahu, who was a monk, what did he do? He decided to move away, go away from Bihar to the south. So lot of Jains followed Bhadrabahu and they went with him. And Bhadrabahu went and settled in Karnataka. Okay. So you find lot of Jains in Karnataka also. I don't know, children, if you have heard of this Shravana Belagola. It's a place in Karnataka which has a single structure, a single monolith statue of Bhadrabahu. Bhadrabahu is standing in a standing pose, and his statue is made of a single rock. From a single rock, a huge, humongous statue has been carved on top of a hill. That statue is called the Gomateshwara statue. Okay, every 12 years, there is a Maha Abhishek of that statue. Every 12 years. So once in 12 years, all the Jains gather at Shravana Belagola. There are cranes and all which are brought, and thousands and thousands of liters of milk and all are poured on the statue. Ghee, honey, milk and everything is poured, and a bath is given to that statue. So that's very famous, and it is once in 12 years it happens. So I want you all to Google this. Go to YouTube and type Gomateshwara statue. Okay, Abhishek of Gomateshwara statue. If you type, then you will come to know about this. Okay, so the two sects are Digambars and Shvetambars. They were led by Bhadrabahu, Stulabhadra. Digambars did not cover their bodies. They thought that covering their bodies with cloth was a symbol of bandha. They renounced everything, including clothes. So wearing clothes is also like feeling a sense of shame, and they were above shame. Why do we cover our bodies? Because you feel ashamed to show certain parts of your body. Correct? It's a kind of feeling that. So these people, they believe that the whole body is given by God. So no part of my body is a secret, or no part of my body is something to be felt ashamed of. They are above this feeling of shame and all these things. So they never wore clothes. Did you understand? So that is renunciation. They have renounced even clothes. So clothes are also a symbol of bandha. And they also thought that if you wear clothes, you will wash the clothes. If you wash the clothes, then you will kill some germs and all which are there. So for them, ahimsa was to that extent that you should not kill even germs while washing clothes. So they were such orthodox followers of Mahavira, and they believed in extreme penance. So these were the people who would go on hundreds and so many days of fasting, and they lived a very simple lives. What is austere? Austere means basic, bare minimum things. They will not own anything that is anything little bit comfortable or luxurious. They don't want. Basic, I want these things for just being alive. Okay, I am born, I have to be alive, I have to keep my body. So I have to give it minimum food so that I don't die. Everything, minimum sleep, my body can rest. So everything is minimum. That is called an austere life. Okay, so they led austere life. Shvetambars were led by Stulabhadra. They wore white clothes. They did not believe in this hard penance like the Digambars. And they did not have such a simple life and all. They did not follow. They fasted. They also fasted, but not extreme fasting. They don't believe in extreme fasting and killing themselves or dying of starvation. They wore white clothes. That's why they're called Shvet. Shvet means white. Dig means no. Ambar means clothes. Digambar means no clothes. Shvetambar means white clothes. Okay. So Shvetambar, they wore white clothes and they covered their faces with a cloth. So you see Jains always cover their faces with white cloth. So that is Shvetambar. And why do they do that? Because while talking, while breathing, small insects or something will go into their mouth and in their nose. They don't want to kill them. That's why they cover their noses and mouths. Okay, now did you understand the two groups? One was led by Bhadrabahu, Sulabhadra. He's also called, the interesting fact is this Bhadrabahu is also called Bahubali. So if you see a plaque, yeah, he's called Bahubali. So there is a big plaque there. I have visited Shravana Belagola. I've seen the Gomateshwara statue. So I'll see if I have a picture of the plaque. I will put it in our PPT next class. Okay. I'll see if I can find that. So it is written there. Bhadrabahu, he was also a king before he became a monk. So he was called Bahubali. Okay. So this statue is actually a statue without clothes. He's a man standing straight, and he did 12 years, he did penance. 12 years he was standing on top of the Himalaya mountains doing penance without moving. So he was so deep in, his meditation that plants and creepers started growing around his body. And he was covered by these plants. But he was so much lost in meditation that he didn't even notice all these things. So if you see the statue there, it shows a creeper going around his body. That is how the creeper the statue is depicted. So you can go to YouTube and you should Google this. You must put this Gomateshwara statue, right? So I think we'll stop our class here today. Anybody who wants to ask questions, quickly raise hands. I don't think we have much time. I'll just take a few questions. Anybody raise hands? Because chat is somehow, somebody has disabled chat. I can't see any chat option. Next time I have to enable chat. Right? Anybody? No questions? Let me scroll and see. Wow. So all of you understood everything. Okay, 1 minute. Did I give, Aratrika, I've unmuted you. Did I give questions last time? I don't think. I gave.
Ma'am, there was a worksheet posted in WebGenie of Vedic Age.
That is Vedic Age, beta. But you have already done all questions of Vedic Age. It's just a repeat.
Yeah.
It's just a repeat. That's at the end of every chapter. I will put it in WebGenie because that's like a record that we have done this chapter, and all the questions of the chapter are in one worksheet. Now what I am doing, I'm giving you in installments. I'm giving you few questions. So now, see, if everybody has to be attending this class, everybody should be copying. So all that is a big question mark in online classes. So that is why we put the worksheet also, so that those who have not taken some of the questions, at least they will get the questions in the WebGenie. Are we clear with that? So that is why. But I have not given you any questions related to Jainism and Buddhism. Right. So I will give it today. I'll put it in. I'll put it in the group so you can answer those questions. Children, as I already told you, reading the textbook is very important. Those which are cut in the textbook also, no, like a story you read. I want you to read that part also. Omitted part also you read, because it's a link, it's a connection. You will not read it for exam. You will read it for pleasure. Did you understand? When you read the chapter of Jainism and Buddhism, all the pages you should read like a story. This is to understand. Afterwards, when you prepare for the exam, you will concentrate only on the parts which are not omitted. Omitted parts you should leave. We should not study for exam. But normally, we have to read everything just to understand the topic. Are we clear? So I want you all to read all the pages that we have covered till now. Okay, give it a read. And if you have any doubts, of course, next class, you can ask me. Okay, bye-bye.